as a tie in the NFL. Apparently, Donovan McNabb does not read the rule book. Then the upstart Seattle Seahawks at 6-4. Goddamn the Seattle Seahawks. Their wide receivers cannot catch a football unless the defensive player catches it for them first. And then the Arizona Cardinals are at 4-5. Is John Skelton still their quarterback right now? Not okay. Is Kevin Kolb hurt at the moment?
Yeah, I think what happened was he broke his ribs, and it was apparently really painful. Like, I guess it was like a broken rib, possibly into like the lung or something. It was a really bad injury. I know.
Yeah, I would certainly not like to have a punctured lung. I know that. And then you have the St. Louis Rams, who have the other tie in the NFL. They played the 49ers last weekend. And we're going to stay with the St. Louis Rams for a minute here and talk about Steven Jackson, who we both think probably won't be with St. Louis next year. He's starting to kind of get up there in age a little bit, doesn't have the same burst he had. And they have Daryl Richardson, he hasn't really done a whole lot with his playing time this year. But maybe with another offseason and just getting familiar with the playbook, he could probably take the reins away from Steven Jackson.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Steven Jackson is I think he's going to go to a team that is possible Super Bowl contender and be like a LaDainian Tomlinson, just to change it down back. You know, he'll get a few garbage time touchdowns, but I think he'll do that. Another player I don't think that'll be with their team next year is Dwayne Bowe. He's openly stated his frustration with the team, his lack of play. Like he wants to be the Randy Moss of that team or the Kelvin Johnson, and they just aren't. He wants to be up on that level, and they just aren't giving it to him.
A lot of people thought he was going to be traded by the bye week, or not the bye week, but by the trade deadline this year. People were thinking he would go to Miami, as they clearly need somebody there to help him out.
What are you talking about? I think Brian Hartline is a great wide receiver. He led the league in receiving yards for a while.
I like how after his big blowout game, his next 3 weeks maybe got one catch. There was one game he had a goose egg, got nothing. What the hell, Miami? What the hell?
And a few other people. We were talking about this before that we were recording this. Is Greg Jennings? He might be gone, and I think he will because he's expensive, and the emergence of Randall Cobb and James Jones, and you know they don't really need him. And even when he was playing this year, he wasn't really. I didn't see him too heavily involved in the offense, and I think he has been hurt a lot, but just. You know, and the other people who might not be with their team, Tony Romo. There's been a few speculations they might cut him or trade him this offseason, which I don't know if any team would really, other than like maybe Jacksonville or you know a team that desperately needs a quarterback, because obviously I don't think Blaine Gabbert is going to be anything in the NFL. I mean, he might even, I don't know. I don't think he will be anything. Is there any other players you can think of?
I wouldn't be too surprised to see Michael Vick. I'm not sure how contracts work out in the NFL, as I am not a contract NFL player. But just the way he's been struggling this year and years past, I wouldn't be surprised if they look to maybe shop him around a little bit, see if they could get some draft picks and kind of turn that offense around a little bit. Now it's time to introduce our special guest, Nathan Sullin, who has a few words that you would like to express about his starting or ex-starting quarterback, Michael Vick. Fish, take it away.
Hey, so I picked up Vick really early in the draft, and as I think he was getting more turnovers than touchdowns every game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, easily. So then RG3 just came out of nowhere and just turned my team around. And now I think I'm sitting 8-1 in that league, just like basically on the back of RG3, just running everything for me.
And Max and I, we are in a fantasy league where we play against each other, and then we're in a fantasy league where we own a team together. So it's kind of fun doing that because we can trash talk the shit out of each other for a while, then Right after that, be like, all right, well, what about this? And at the beginning of the season, we decided to keep, and this is just bad. We're like, all right, because we joined the team. It's a keeper league, and the only way you get points in this league is you get touchdowns in increments of 100 yards. And, other things, 2-point conversions, whatever. So we start off the season, we get our team, and it's not that great. And we're looking at it, and we're like, the people we kept on that team were Daniel Thomas, who I think we dropped in week 2, Michael Vick, Jay Cutler, which neither of those, they're not on our team anymore, Darren Sproles, who else? AJ Green. He was probably the only player we've kept in that team that we're confident every week. We're like, all right, we're going to play him. So I know in fantasy-wise, it's a lot different than NFL. You draft players, in this league at least, that you're like, all right, this guy is going to be good, but you want to get players like Maurice Jones-Drew. He's a great player, but in this league, they don't score. You need teams that score. And for a long time there, we rode the coattails of Andy Dalton, and we might continue to do that unless this trade goes through. But speaking of Andy Dalton, a few players this weekend of really you want on your team, you want playing are anyone on the Cincinnati Bengals, especially Dalton or AJ Green. If you have them, and I don't know why you wouldn't start AJ Green, but I mean, if you have, say, your quarterback is, unless it's a top 3, Breeze, Brady, Rodgers. If you got a Michael Vick and an Andy Dalton, I would start Andy Dalton easily over him.
And the law firm, Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, has not been too bad this year. No one had high hopes for him to begin with, though. But he's been a solid, get you maybe 60 to 70 rushing yards a game. He'll get a touchdown here and there. I was hoping he'd get a couple more touchdowns than he currently has. But there's nothing I can do about that. Did not take him long, though, to have his first NFL fumble. I believe it was week 4. He fumbled it finally. And then 2 weeks after that, he had another fumble. Just butterfingers.
One other thing here is I want to kind of go and punch the people who at NFL Network, because for some reason they think it's awesome to have the shittiest games on Thursday night. I mean, what was it last week? I think it was San Diego. It was San Diego. No, last Thursday was Jacksonville Jaguars and the Indianapolis Colts. Who the hell wants to watch that? That is not a prime time game. And then this week it's the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. Like, no one, you're going to get more ratings for the Colts and Patriots game than you are the Miami Buffalo game. Like, that is just bad. Few other games this week that I'd say start players in is, I would start any Patriots player you have since they're playing the Colts, and their defense isn't too great this year. I would start any player. Obviously, you should start them anyway. Any player on the Atlanta Falcons, because they're playing the Arizona Cardinals. They're just bad. Dallas players playing Cleveland, and even what is the cornerback? Everyone in the beginning of the season, he was a shutdown cornerback, and everyone was afraid of him. What team? Cleveland.
Oh, Joe Hayden?
Joe Hayden.
Yeah, he had that suspension to start out the season. I still think he's a very solid shutdown cornerback.
But the thing was, as I saw, was every time I'd go and look at my projections, it'd be like, oh, they're playing Joe Hayden, so don't expect much. And then he didn't really stop him. That's just kind of what I saw there.
Yeah, and that whole Cleveland defensive unit, there's nobody that really stands out besides Joe Hayden. So I'm sure he's not getting a whole lot of help on the backside. And he can only cover one guy at a time. Like, there's other people they're going to get the ball to. So I would agree with that. Don't be too afraid of Joe Hayden, but still take it into consideration.
Well, yeah, my team it's been kind of on a comeback streak ever since the start. I was really slacking at the start, but coming up now, I had Ben Roethlisberger, who's probably going to be out the rest of the season. So I got to write Dalton, but AP's on a bye, Chris Johnson's on a bye this week. I have both of them, so I got nothing to start for running backs. I mean, I beat the league leader 2 weeks ago, but
you did. You did beat me.
So that's all the shit talk I got, but God, now I'm worried about what happened going on here.
Yeah, it wasn't very nice of us to kind of spring that news on you mid-podcast here. But looking at the rushing leaders now, we mentioned Adrian Peterson leading the league, but Chris Johnson is 4th in rushing yards this year with 852, 62. I don't know. He's kicking ass.
Yeah, I was really kind of hating that keep from last year, like up until like week 8. It took him a long time to get going, but I mean, thank God it finally happened.
Once he kind of got going, though, he got going. Like he's been on a tear since he started. I don't know when he started going.
Yeah, I think he only had one triple-digit game for like the first half of the season. Now he's putting up triple digits like consistently, and it's been pretty impressive to have a comeback like that.
Yeah, they got Steve Hutchinson in the offseason, which I think has been a big help to their running game, as that guy is just a massive pancake machine.
Week 6.
And it looks like it was, what about week 6?
That's when he started going off.
Oh, yeah, it was about week 6 where he started to put things together. He had a 2-touchdown game against Buffalo. Oh, wow, he didn't even need 20 carries to do that. Yeah, he's just... Hopefully he can keep this going for years to come.
And the one person, we talk about, you always talk about the players you get that you're just like, fuck yeah, I'm so pumped. Like this year, I drafted Doug Martin, I think in like the 10th round. He dropped. Now I'm loving it because Ray Rice is kind of, he gets points, but he doesn't do it as well as he should. But in the league Max and I'm in, and you get more frustrated, I believe, than you get satisfaction on fantasy football. And the one player that's really started to frustrate the hell out of me is Victor Cruz. And I know it's not his fault. Eli Manning's been on kind of a slide past few weeks, but I just believe he can really step it up. And Eli, and it's hurting me because I need Victor Cruz to score.
Yeah, it's tough because like Victor Cruz is such a weapon, but Eli's just not utilizing as much as he should week to week.
Last week he threw it to Cruz I think 4 times and threw it to Hakeem Nicks 10. So it obviously Victor Cruz was the best NFL receiver in the league until 2 weeks ago. He was a top receiver. Him and I actually think that's a true fact is he was the best receiver in the NFL. That until week 8 or 9 or something.
I don't know about that, but I do know that Reggie Wayne has really come through for me this year.
You just want Reggie Wayne all up in you, don't you?
Well, I can't see how you wouldn't. Everyone was just down on him, I feel, this year, just with a rookie quarterback thrown to him. People did not have high hopes for the Indianapolis Colts, but he may not be leading the league in receptions, but boy, he really is up there in catches this year.
And another thing, too, is he might not have as many yards, but I think he's more valuable to the... Actually, obviously, Kelvin Johnson's probably the most valuable player on any team.
It's hard to knock Kelvin Johnson for being valuable.
Yeah, I don't mean it in any way, but I mean, I think Reggie Wayne's catches have been more valuable.
Yeah, with a rookie quarterback, having a wide receiver to go to like that, it is a big help to boost confidence for a new quarterback.
Yeah, and you got Reggie Wayne. He's only about 50 yards under Kelvin Johnson, but I mean, those 40 or 50 yards can be caught in a single pass. So, and Kelvin Johnson last week went off against the Vikings. He got over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the other, and I kind of want to flip it over here to a defensive side. And obviously the player everyone is up, the defense everyone is up on is the Bears defense. And I think J.J. Watt has been a huge, and he just kind of came out of nowhere this year because last year, unless you're a Houston Texans fan, you don't really know J.J. Watt. Who was their middle linebacker last year?
Brian Cushing. It's either Cushing or Crushing. I think it's Cushing because Crushing doesn't make sense.
Mario Williams, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, Mario Williams was their defensive lineman. I think he was like a right or left end. He left in free agency and went to Buffalo this year, and that certainly has not worked out for him. But J.J. Watt, last year in the playoffs, when Houston was in the playoffs, I believe he returned a fumble for a touchdown, and that's kind of when